Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fleet's Random Ramblings, number 102. We are now officially into the triple digits in a big way. Now, as some of you know, this was supposed to be the ramblings with all the shipshape crew. How to discuss Japan. However, owing to the way that my work has shaken out, and the way in which my schedules have emerged, I've pushed that back to next week at fairly short notice, basically down to the fact that next Monday I'm not going to be working the day after, whereas tonight I will be working the day after, which means I have to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning, so yeah.
Street Corner will miss you, Fleet.
Yeah. Well, I gotta make ends meet somehow, even for the limited amount of time I'm probably gonna have this job for. Gotta squeeze it for everything it's worth.
It's better than nothing.
It is. Yeah, trying to find another job after it's gonna be hell though. But hey ho, what are you gonna do? Right.
Hey,
Okay.
ho, let's go.
So everything should be running correctly. So I'm just gonna check and see. Okay, so I should be able to then push that button and that should work. Yep, there we go. So questions are now open on YouTube and the questions are now open in Discord. Channel Lord, did you watch Red's video on the Count of Monte Cristo? And that is therefore inspired you to read that book? Just a hunch that I have here. Because I also watched Red's video on that.
Yes, what's up?
Yeah. Dragon, on a side note, you just saw why the Bacan's perfectly balanced, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we have no... I'm going to check and see, do we have any YouTube questions? No, we have no YouTube questions yet. Wow. Okay, so nice and easy. Get it going. Simple as. Admiral Wellesley asks, who was the funniest president of the United States? I don't really have...
Ronald Reagan.
Depends on your definition of funny. As in, funny isn't actually funny in telling jokes? Good question. Funny in terms of their actions? That depends who you ask.
In jokes, Ronald Reagan. 100%.
Nah, I think FDR had a pretty good run as well.
I mean, if you go of British humour and nihilistic humour, Bush was fucking funny.
Yes,
I'll give you that.
Yeah, Timu, that's literally why I didn't bring it up, because I am way ahead of you, Timu. I am way ahead of you.
Although Jimmy Carter was also funny, especially with that botched speech in Poland in the 70s.
I was just waiting for my Patreon to load because for some reason it's really
Not yet,
it's
Brandon.
running really slow.
I think my favorite
now
Reagan
it's loaded.
speech is the first one he does after getting almost assassinated and the balloon pops. He just looks up from his speech. You missed. And just goes back to reading. It's fucking great.
Brackerman asks on Patreon, what are some pop history things you prefer people will no longer mention / believe? That the Germans were incapable of fighting an industrial war, and that they were chronically addicted to perfection and didn't adapt throughout the conflict, and that it's and I'm sick that pop history has now gone too far the other way. So we had the whole, German tanks were superior in every way. Now we have the whole German tanks are massive pieces of shit, when in reality the reality was in the middle, just like everyone else's tanks.
They were fairly decent,
God,
but
that's
had
not the most useless.
terrible maintenance. Oh my god. Pulling a transmission out of a fucking Panther? You might as well just shoot yourself.
Yeah. So next Patreon question
I mean-
is
An actually interesting one.
okay.
The idea that the late Byzantine and the Roman Empire were the same fucking empire.
Oh yeah, that little chestnut.
Because the Roman Empire of 1000 AD and 1200 AD as the same Roman Empire of 300 BC.
Yeah. This is the thing.
It was not.
No.
At 300
This is-
BC, it's still the Republic.
Yeah, this is the thing that everyone forgets. The Roman Empire, or what we know as the West, collapsed because it stopped adapting and tried to just preserve itself as it was, and it died.
No.
The Byzantine Empire
No.
didn't because it adapted. And this is why culture is flexible, culture is always changing, and there's no such thing as cultural rewriting. It just changes.
The Western Roman Empire collapsed because the Western provinces deurbanized because of how the Roman Empire was set up. Once you lost control of the countryside and the city started to shrink, good night, Vienna.
Yeah.
People don't seem to realize that the Byzantine Empire, after the establishment of the Thermata, aside from maybe aesthetics and a title, has nothing to do with the Roman Empire.
No, it's all about ego.
Yeah,
It's all about claiming status.
and that's how you get movies where you got Byzantine soldiers in 1444 defending against the Turks, dressed like they're from the birth of Christ.
I'm sorry, fucking what?
Yep.
Yeah, don't
Yep.
get me started on some of those movies on the Byzantine Empire. In nicest way, I did want to have a long conversation with why did the Byzantines lose to the Ottomans? Surely their legionnaires would be able to hold the line against them, and I was sort of going, oh,
The Ottomans
my
were just
God.
the final hammer blow out of a long series of centuries worth of hammer blows.
I have
Had
to admit,
exist
that
for
person
600
I ended up
years.
telling them to go play Rome Total War, the older edition, not the newer edition, because then they'd at least see the progression of how troops changed over time once they played the barbarian invasion bit, and could see how things variously differed. But yeah,
I think the best one comparison I've seen is if you're happy with your if your Byzantine legionnaires dressing like Romans, you should be happy with the Crusaders going into the Levant with tanks. Because
Oh,
that's
yes.
a shorter period of time between them.
hey, and let's be honest, in the nicest way, it's well known that Richard the Lionheart would only go into battle in a Matilda II.
Another
Seems
one was
legit.
Braveheart.
Pair of tanks, and it was a Matilda II or nothing.
Oh dear.
I can see that.
Yeah, we can see that.
And another one that's a pet peeve, and since we're here, I'll bring it up. Braveheart. By the time of that movie, the Scots were no longer charging into battle naked, covered in blue paint.
There's even more to fun that the fact is that they basically in that movie, if it was historically accurate about the relationship of him with the princess, he would have been shagging a 6-year-old.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
medieval politics.
Explain to some people because someone told me, well, you know, that means it's the royal family are really descended from William Wallace, and I went, no, they aren't, because William Wallace was not interested in 6-year-olds, and the fact you claim that is kind of disturbing to your point because it suggests rather than venerating your hero, you're projecting some of your own fantasies onto him.
Yeah.
The past
Oh,
is
I
weird
get
about children.
Get away with this because I'm half Scottish, half Cornish. I might have this accent, but I have enough family from the Highlands that I can be quite rude in defense of William Wallace if I want to be. He
Also,
wasn't
William Wallace
spontaneously
is
claimed,
supposed
but,
to
you know, yeah.
been what 6'6",
Yes.
played by Mel Gibson, who is
Not
Yeah, according
6'6".
to yeah. Yeah.
But on a related note, I don't get where it comes from, but the medieval period was not just brown and dirt coloured.
Oh,
No.
good lord, the amount of people who insist on calling it the Dark Ages.
Yes, it's like it was an incredibly colourful time.
It was not the Dark Ages. There is no. It was not the Dark Ages. That is a Victorian phrase which is really should be consigned to
The Victorian Age.
no, something further
Leave it
back.
there.
Basically, hell.
'Cause, I mean, the Dark Ages, I've seen it referred to as the Western European Dark Age.
But it's not even. It is not even a Dark Age in Europe. It's entirely a theory based on, well, then there's the Renaissance and the light and everything. All this stuff comes, and you sit there and go, but does that mean nothing was happening in that period? Well, they weren't the Roman Empire anymore. No, but they weren't that bad. Yes, they lost some of the advantages of a major developed bureaucracy, which the Romans had down pat, because most of the things that replaced them weren't it. But also, the Romans had developed such an inept bureaucracy, and that it was so overwhelming, they couldn't actually do the job of defending themselves and organizing themselves, and because it got so corrupt.
The thing with feudalism is that it went back to basic principles. It returned to the idea that you legislated power through a mix of temporal and material power, and you delegated that power through people you trusted to a limited extent, rather than pure bureaucracy under a single leader and a centralized government. You diffuse your powers and governance through the land to make it more effective. And while it may have had some issues compared to the central bureaucratic nations that came before it, things like Rome, etc. It was a very, very robust system that was also very adaptable.
But they were.
That's a horrible misrepresentation of what feudalism was, but
Yeah.
okay.
Foxo, we're going to let Dan get in first, because Dan was busting to go that one. He almost beat you there. Dan, I know this is a topic of yours.
So, I actually, this is going to sound, I'm going to sound like a heretic here. I find the term Dark Ages fine, provided you use it for what it was originally intended to mean. A lack of available historical sources. That's it. It's dark to historians when they are trying to read stuff, because at the time they didn't have them. We've actually now found quite a lot more sources than we realized they had. So they are less dark, but there are still large chunks of stuff we do not know about from that period, about things like the administration that we have for periods before it and after it. But that was why it was called the Dark Ages. And you have a Greek Dark Ages when, from what we can tell, there was no writing between the end of the Mycenaean period and the start of the kind of classical or archaic periods in Greece. They are historical terms like that, and the problem is people have taken it to mean, oh, you mean it was bad? No, just we don't know much about it.
Yeah.
That's all. Nothing else. It is in no way an implication about the people, the quality, anything. And you look at the art and things, and you go, yes, they were managing to make really good art. They were doing lots of really advanced things. We don't have as much of the stuff written down.
Or to quote the person today who told me that the reason that they built so many third rates in the Age of Sail was because they didn't realize the value of building a first rate fleet.
It couldn't just be to have more ships, right?
Yeah, this particular Bright Spark was a full hour and a half of fun. And I'd like to say that was the high point of it when they reached the nadir, but no, that was their opening statement within 20 minutes of me starting talking to them, and it just got worse from there.
It's like the British building 2 60,000-ton aircraft carriers instead of a U.S. supercarrier. They can be in two places at once.
Yeah. Technically,
Crazy.
We paid for 3.5 though, so technically we should have at least got 3, but that was because we paid to slow build and also have the capacity to build more if should we need to in a rapid circumstance. And then you then mothball that capacity after you're building them, so you can't do that. So why are we paying the extra money? But sorry,
Pay all that extra money. You should have put catapults on them. Cough.
Yeah, so just
Oh,
to
don't get me
finish off
started.
Dan's point about the Dark Ages, I have read about a subset of the Dark Ages, which is classified as the English Dark Age, which is called that because of the death of written English for a period of 200 to 300 years. And the lack of Middle English written sources.
Mhm.
That's why English is so bucket as a writing language.
Just imagine reading a damn book where there's no spaces between words. My God.
No. Listen to that.
So you've been reading Russian recently?
Or just Old English. They didn't invent the space until like 400 years ago.
I know, but not nice this way. I've been having fun with some theoretically modernish Russian documents from the 1930s. Yes, last night, and they were fun.
We have gone down a little bit of a rabbit hole with this one, so
I just want
we
to
need
point
to
out
move on.
that Old English,
Dark Age debate.
like Old English, is a gendered language.
We don't.
However,
don't
for the
have
last
the time
1,000
for
years, the
this.
speaking. Wait, let me finish. But for the last 1,000 years of speaking it, spoken English has not been a gendered language.
Yeah.
Which when that written English, okay, Old English or Anglic, didn't actually have a lot to do with spoken English.
Yep. You can say that again.
Brandon Larson asks, on Patreon, what if the entire modern-day US population, infrastructure, and military forces were sent back in time to 1936? How does the panel foresee World War II going? The Germans,
clean
the
sweep.
Japanese, and the Italians die. I mean,
World War II doesn't happen at that point. Who's going to fight that?
I mean, honestly, the best
Like
thing,
guys with missiles.
the best thing the US can do at that point is literally just remove the governments easily of Germany, Japan, or maybe not Japan. Japan could probably be cowed into not doing stupid shit with a show of force. But
48 hours with
and
B-2 bombers.
and Italy as well. Perhaps they don't really need their governments changing. Perhaps it would be a little bit too messy. But.
Change the leader of Italy's government, not even their head of state, just their
Yeah.
leader. You can
Yeah.
do that fairly quickly in Nice Wade. Let's be honest, we are talking about a dictator who was such a strong dictator that people in his Senate stood up every day and called him. Well, actually, literally in one case, almost every day, stood up and read out a list of insults that he'd spent the previous day thinking about calling Mussolini, and then sat down. That was literally his daily ritual in the Senate. That was
Yeah.
his contribution to the
Yeah.
debate every day. You know, that really speaks of a very strong dictator. That really says that dictator who has power. He is such a dictator.
I don't think the US is going to have the appetite or the will to get involved in Spain.
No.
Spain's a mess, and it was a mess at the time, even for the great powers to get involved in. They all basically just literally, apart from certain things, all of the major powers that were actually established, aka the British and the French, with the exception of the Italians, who had an axe to grind to try and make more friends, and the Germans, who were eager to just test things.
Depends what they go back to in 1936, because the Spanish Civil War doesn't start till July 1936. If they turn up in January 1936, they could stop it happening.
I mean,
and are you going to tell me there aren't a lot of Spanish Americans people who've got Spanish ancestry who live in America who would not be keen on not stopping Franco's Spain from coming about?
I mean, considering that while it did take a roundabout route, it did lead to a Ruinon's not here, Brandon. We did get to modern Spain through that method, and it did lead to a modern, liberal Spain with a monarchy, which I think is a decent outcome, even if there was a little bit of bloodshed to get there.
That's a very, very polite phrasing. That's a bit like arguing that you should continue with the Holocaust because it leads to the state of Israel.
That's not the same.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Do you have any
I'm not
idea
even
how many
sure I
tens,
wanna
hundreds,
hear
thousands
what
of
you
people
just said.
died?
The elite thinks that you should let the Spanish Civil War happen if you could stop it, because eventually it leads to the liberal modern Spain.
The alternative is we don't know what would happen. Like if we try to, even if a modern US
Move modern
that's
America
set back to
back to
36,
January 1936. You already don't know what's going to happen in the future. You've changed everything already.
Yeah, you've already changed everything, and let me put it this way: the modern American attitude is about as far as you can get from the U.S. attitude in the 30s on participating in international affairs. So
who would they back in Spain though?
Sounds like the Spanish need some democracy, boys.
to be honest,
They back the democratic government of Spain, probably.
yeah, and would probably do so with overwhelming force.
The Spanish Republic
Um,
was an exceptionally flawed state.
It doesn't matter. It's better than the two alternatives.
It's better than a fascist dictatorship or a communist dictatorship. They'll
It's
And
make sure
you
it's
can always.
In the
by
eyes of the
way,
American,
you're
they're the same.
U.S. You're one of the primary fuel suppliers, and that was at that point. At this point, when it comes to fuel supplies, you are God on Earth for the globe. You can produce basically miracle fuels.
We have aircraft carriers that refuel once every 20 years, and we just dropped all of that into 1936. We're fucking magicians, man. We're God
Let's
now.
just put it this way: laser-guided bombs are going to be deleting battleships if they ever need to.
We're literally God now because we went back in time.
I mean,
And
there's always
I think
the option.
But like in terms of intervening in the Spanish Civil War, that is probably going to happen. Let's put it this way: if the U.S. wished to intervene in the Balkans over much of Europe's protests and force them to take part in that, what do you think is going to happen here?
I mean, there's nothing that anyone can do to stop the US.
No.
Well, no. What I'm saying is the U.S. is guaranteed to intervene.
German government removed,
And Spain is maybe not. What you might see is any attempts by Weimar Germany to renege on stuff.
it's 36.
No.
We're like
It's 36. Yeah, so any treaty violations are going to get quashed because that's the perfect casus belli for that, and the U.S. has the force to come in and do it with very few losses.
A single carrier strike group could do it with probably no losses at all.
You're probably going to want ground troops. That's the big lesson the U.S. took away from World War II was if you really want to change somebody, you got to occupy them.
Did you look at 2003 and 1991, America versus Iraq, and then realize that it's going to be even worse for everyone that they fight because their technology's from the 30s?
We'll just say, if the US do intervene more than they should, they might end up becoming a rather unpleasant state in terms of what most of the world sees.
Yeah, maybe.
Even if they're strong enough to do what they want, it would not surprise me if they do end up doing what they want. Other nations might go, we don't really
part
want
of this
to be
is why I
affiliated.
don't see the U.S. like forcing the British Empire to dismantle right then and there. The modern U.S. isn't going to care that much. There might
we
be
saw
some
what
things
we
on,
did.
hey, maybe you treat the locals a little bit better. Because
Hey,
the
homies,
modern
we're from the
US does
future.
typically love to use soft power, and the U.S. is going to have a lot of soft power.
There is also the sticking point of, I assume, if the Soviets attempt to invade Finland or Poland, they also get slapped with extreme prejudice.
Depends.
Oh man, we can put an end to the Cold War before it starts by just
Finland-
blapping the Russians.
Finland is probably going to just get supplies, and Finnish Bradleys are going to cause problems for Russian people.
Finnish Bradleys!
Let's just
Yes!
put it that way. They
In
don't
nice-
even need the ATGMs.
No,
Um,
no, no.
That 1-inch punch is going to cause a problem.
Just give them
No.
javelins.
Imagine this.
Why?
Maybe
They don't
5
need the
millimeter
javelins
light
to do
gun.
that.
We don't have to send them vehicles. Send
yeah,
them
I will be honest.
AT-4s and M16s.
Arnott does bring up a semi-decent point here of who is currently in charge of the US might have things to say about things.
I will point out that
He might, but at the same
It's
time,
really
there's
being the
also a
greatest
chance for
generation.
the US to be incredibly strong and make
Yeah.
a ton of money.
But I would point
Yeah.
out as well
Yeah.
that the US, that like
Yeah.
Trump literally has a chance to become a great president by crushing fascism and communism. Like,
The
hello,
problem is
He's an
Europe
egomaniac.
might
who would
see
do
that
it.
as basically you interfering. While they don't like fascism,
The
It's
US
still a
is a
it's
So
still a
the
case
US
of
the US is a party to that same treaty.
Mm.
which treaty? To be precise.
Or not directly that treaty, but the US has a separate treaty with Germany, and it does have its own conditions.
Mhm.
If Germany violates those conditions, the US is just as justified to get involved as anybody else.
and
Yes.
I'm meaning more than just Germany, though. Like, with how the current American president is, he is going to ruffle a lot of other countries.
He might actually fit in better in this environment than he does
Yeah.
today.
yeah,
Might.
Yeah.
And in the nicest way, just imagine Winston Churchill and Donald Trump having a drinking competition.
Oh, dude.
Yeah,
it's
well,
not even
I
Donald
can
Trump
see
doesn't
it.
drink, but you know,
I know.
It's
That's
the,
what I mean.
it'd be funny. It'd be funny.
Doc, why are you trying to put Vance in the Oval Office?
In a
Look.
nice way, Vance's liver couldn't keep up with Winston Churchill's. There is not a single modern politician who has had the liver training which Winston Churchill had to be able to drink the sheer
Yeah.
amount he could drink.
Honestly, you know what?
Yeah,
I'm not
I
gonna
mean-
lie. Bone Meal Boy's
I mean-
absolutely right. I think, like, Dragon, I do get what you're saying, but the British and the French are gonna look at the US basically stomping on the Germans for something they've done and go, "Oh, it's annoying that they've done this without consulting us, but now we don't have to deal with that problem anymore."
No, it's not just that.
so
That's all a given.
Trump's power politics are going to fit in, at least internationally, are going to fit in a lot better in this period.
It's the domestic politics that's going to be the issue.
They're going to fit in better too domestically.
Yeah.
To
I
be
mean-
blunt, have you ever heard of the Zoot Suit riots?
Yeah.
Mm.
I have never heard of the Zoot Suit riots.
Oh, that reminds me, I've got to get a suit out for next week.
Um,
Oh, caramba.
like Trump's politics are going to fit in a lot better in the 30s and 40s, a lot better,
Even if the
both
Americans come back.
geopolitically and domestically. in the
Sorry,
US.
sorry, Doc.
Oh, you're right.
I'm
Bruno?
going to remind the court that many multiple
Okay.
Republican representatives had blatantly obvious American flag / swastika flags pinned up in their offices. So if you're taking the entire political infrastructure back to, what was it, 36?
It's not just political. It's literally every American from the modern day goes
And
back.
no, it's America, the modern
Yeah,
America.
Like that, my point is literally every American, every bit of American infrastructure, all of it goes back. Which is why it's a
Yeah, so domestically, we're
Bit of a
seeing
silly
what we're
question,
seeing
I'll say.
now, but like geopolitically, he's going to fit in a lot better.
Yeah.
they're gonna have problems
With
because all of a
reality.
sudden this doesn't say it replaces it.
Well, it kind of
So
has.
theoretically speaking, you've just theoretically speaking, the US now has a minor population problem for housing.
Someone's
Yeah.
trying to get a word in edgewise, and I can't tell who it is. I think it's Foxo. Or somebody's having really choppy mic issues.
I think it was.
Could be
I
Dan
was.
then.
I
Right,
was.
Brandon's now saying it does fully replace it. Then
I
yeah.
think the
then-
logical thing to assume is that it does replace it.
Yeah.
And who is this question from? Brandon
Brandon,
Larson?
yeah.
Brandon, I believe so. Yeah, so
Yeah,
they've said it does,
literally
that's what I
just said it
yeah.
does replace it.
Knight, I wouldn't.
then-
I'm going to disagree with you there, Knight. Churchill wouldn't hate Trump. Quite frankly, he
No.
he would just view him as another U.S. president to deal with. Like the US,
They're gonna
like
teach
He got
the
along.
US, like the US had, like bear in mind, the US had presidents that were more bombastic and cantankerous than Trump in this period.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but Churchill was also empire first.
But yes.
Yes.
He was a
But
man
all-
who saw the empire as an unequivocal good.
And I don't
And
think the
one of
U.S.
the
in this
things that he
scenario is going
rejected-
to be trying to tear the empire down.
Given one wing of American politics, probably.
Not. I
I mean, I'm not talking about the American progressive wing.
Yeah,
they have no power at this
that,
point.
that wing doesn't even show up to vote in general elections generally, Foxo. Like, they just drive part of the primaries and then they don't show up. And when they do show up, they vote for the other side. Like, it's... The U.S. politics are weird. They're hard to view from the outside. But the American progressives tend to have little to no, and that little that they do is incredibly minor and generally eye-rolled and ignored influence on foreign policy.
Arnott, I would
Yeah,
say
the-
that the US economy would experience flip-flop syndrome for a little bit, not collapse. Because on the one
It
hand,
would crash.
because on the one
No,
hand,
it would
no,
collapse.
because no, can I? You can all correct me when I'm done. Can I?
Good. Then I'm going to run you completely over, but go ahead. And I call first dibs on running Fleet over on this one.
Okay.
Dang you!
Okay.
I was going to taxi it.
So yeah, there is going to be a massive collapse at first. The economy is getting missing major inputs. Shipping that ports and supply chains expect will dry up. There will be chaos for the first couple of months. Once the US realizes where it is, they will then realizes where it is, what's going on. Emergency measures will be put into place. Not quite martial law, but kind of economic restructuring with a federal or state hand on the tiller will probably take place, and that will probably result in a bouncing. Then once the world realizes what the US can offer in terms of things it does produce, so certain modern types of steel that aren't produced in this period, the oil products it produces at the scale it produces them, there will be a vast export market opening up that didn't exist before. Yes, it technically exists today, but it doesn't exist at this point in the, in this world with this US. And that will probably lead to a spike in the US economy again, or it won't make up for the massive crash that it suffered, but compared to the new normal that everyone has been used to by that point, it should provide enough of an injection to restart some semblance of normal economic recovery.
Go on, Renan.
You done?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to point out to the court that Fleet did change his vocabulary after I said
did.
I was going to give him structurally superfluous new asshole.
No.
So right
You did.
now,
Yes. Carry on.
we can play back the tape in a minute. Benefits of being on YouTube. So right now, the single biggest thing that is contributing to broad-based employment in the United States is the AI bubble. Predominantly in the construction of data centers and the supporting infrastructure for those data centers. That's the biggest thing that's keeping us out of officially being in a recession right now, because the current administration scrapped like 80% of the previous administration's subsidies and benefits for infrastructure, so on and so forth, and killed about 500,000 jobs while doing it. What doesn't exist in 1936 in any meaningful capacity? TSMC. So if you don't have TSMC and you don't have Samsung, that means you're not making chips. If you're not making chips, that means NVIDIA has nothing to sell to fill these AI data centers, which means all of those AI data centers stop cold. There is no point to exist those if you don't have a mature and
Yeah, U.S.
all-
chipset production, like domestically, is not going to be able to keep up.
yes. If you don't have the high volume that you are getting out of Korea, Japan, and Taiwan currently. So the economy is going to implode, and because we relative to 1936 United States, we have no manufacturing in this country. So it's going to make the Great Depression look like the Great Recession. The economy is going to absolutely implode, and it will do so within months, unless the U.S. government, which I don't see this government doing, does essentially a universal basic income for everybody that's in the United States and implements it right quick, and then tries to sell, essentially nationalizes all the IP and tries to license some while building the infrastructure to build the rest. As far as the advanced steelmaking and the advanced oil refinery, that's all well and good. The problem is a lot of that does rely on trace elements and supplies and spares that come from other countries. And the U.S. does not stock much in the way of spare parts, except for very key industries which are required to stock those spare parts. We are hooked on the Western version of just-in-time logistics. So we would have to
Can I just
find
addendum that as well, Bernard, quickly? And it's going to be even worse for the oil and oil product industry, because there's not much of a mature market for them at this point. They're not going to be valuable because nobody's going to be consuming them, aside from fuel oil.
and
Well, the lion's share of their consumption is domestic, and if we're assuming modern America went back,
yeah. So
there's that.
You
But
re-
there's
you
other
remember?
underlying issues.
Continuing on.
yeah, you're like the war is an afterthought. World War II is an afterthought. Realistically, World War II doesn't happen because I think even though the various Axis powers are going to look at the U.S. Navy and laugh at ship numbers, they're still going to look at those ships and be like, even just the carriers, like, those are some awfully big carriers. And they're going to have a lot of questions. You might have Hitler likes to gamble. Maybe he tries something, but if you still
invite
assume
a few representatives of the here to go witness 1st Cavalry Division training at Fort Hood.
yeah, well, they still have spares and such. But if you assume the war still starts in 39, by that time the U.S. economy is probably absolutely imploded. It's a mess. It's not going to bode well for American domestic politics, and that will likely spill over into international politics, and the world is going to be much worse off in 1939 than it was historically.
I do actually
Just
I have actually had.
Okay,
Go on, Fox. You
I
first.
would go next. I'm much more concerned about the collapse of the modern service industry.
Yeah.
That makes
be
up a truly massive amount of the American economy. And that's a global infrastructure of America at its center. That's a global infrastructure that no longer exists. Like, even just internet-based commerce, which has become a massive part of modern economies, wouldn't be a thing outside of America, of how long America can sustain it. And
That
it's
would-
not like America has the chip manufacturing to kickstart the consumer electronics industry by itself at this point.
It has the ability to manufacture that, mostly domestically too. And the few resources that would be needed are actually still obtainable in this period for that. So you're right. it's going to dramatically contract, but now there's a huge market. And there's nobody undercutting the market, the ability to expand your market there.
Is it
one
going
of
to
the
be a
big-
huge market? Because people are going to be incredibly skeptical. People will be incredibly skeptical of
It's
this.
not about that. It's 15 to
Incredibly
16 years
broad.
of infrastructure that needs to be built.
Yes.
So
I'm not denying that, Foxo. Let me finish. One of the big problems for why the US hasn't been able, despite throwing billions of dollars and more at some of these industries that the US has not been able to jumpstart domestically, is because they continually get undercut on the global stage by the Chinese as part of deliberate policy. You see this in rare earths. It's one of the big problems the US and Australia are currently having. And you see this in chip manufacturing. Although less the mainland Chinese. Taiwan needs an economy after all. But those are just two easy examples. The US fuel industry and oil industry, much of that material is manufactured in the United States for the support of domestic consumption. There will be an increase in fuel prices because Canada isn't coming back with us. And that will have to get taken up. You are right. We are talking a 20-year recovery.
Optimistic.
We are talking a 20-year recovery here where it's hard to say what the US is going to look like after that. But in that 20, 25 years, things are going to be interesting afterwards. And yeah, people are going to want access to US communications technology and US electronics. It's a game changer for commerce, for communications, for just regular computationally tracking transactions or shipments, everything. It's a game changer. And do not underestimate the want of people to make more money more efficiently.
And actually, talking that, I could see, basically, especially with Trump as leader, because he's such a bit of an Anglophone, probably him and Churchill and the British Empire would get along well, because for Britain, America's technology would be great. The British Empire's access to raw materials, global markets, and needs for those communication technologies means we'll be willing to pay for it, which means to help for America during its transition. The British Empire, actually keeping the British Empire around and keeping the British Empire together and assisting with that becomes very useful.
I'm not sure I want
It's
to
still
live in
going to
this
be
world.
very, very rough domestically in the United States.
It's going to be rough, but it could be effective. There is going to be an effective.
Now, I can tell you one industry that's going to do very well in the U.S.
The armaments
agriculture.
industry? Oh.
Oh yeah, agriculture's going to be doing great guns.
And that will improve the lives of a lot of people on this planet.
For a little bit, yes. Agriculture will be doing well for about 1 year, maybe.
They have enough time to be able to transition into this reality, Ronan.
No.
Yes, they do.
Right. The US
no.
currently imports something like 17% of its food.
Yeah, but a lot of that.
Yeah, but say
A
you
lot
move
of that
over
is-
to. Oh, sorry, go on then, Ronan.
A lot of that is unnecessary specialty foods.
Or it's so that we can, or it's so that we can have certain things out of season. Continue, Dragon, and then I'm going to jump in.
Yes, but those things that are specialty or out of season usually keep populations happy, which is going to be an important thing. Yes, the US might be able to do this, but it does take quite a long time to change your entire agriculture over to this
That's
new reality.
not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about adjusting the methods by which you're harvesting. moving to different tractors, moving to different combines, moving
That
to
Still takes time. A lot
it
of
does.
it. Actually.
It does. However, there are plenty of other suppliers on this planet that are going to suddenly have people able to buy with what seems to be an obscene amount of money.
Okay,
Bedford's gonna be fucking rolling in it.
if you go to any farm in the United States,
Runan, do not fucking lecture me on farms.
Gentlemen,
I can
please.
lecture you on spares,
No,
and I've worked with hand in glove with farmers and set up their systems and
You're
repaired
not
their
the
systems.
only one.
gentlemen, ladies.
They
Oh,
have
then it's-
about
Go on, Renan.
they have about a year's worth of spares for all the different makes, models of tractors.
Mhm.
And I question whether companies like Case, John Deere, Case and International Harvester, same thing. All the various different agriculture manufacturers that still have casting and foundries and assembly plants in the United States are going to be able to get tractors models in place and delivered to fields that are capable of working in this new 2025 US in 1936 world.
I don't think that the US is where you're going to find this injection of materiel. Quite frankly, I think you're going to see the US go out onto the international market and drain it of all of its spare capacity in terms of agricultural
Even if it's
equipment.
substandard equipment. And dramatically substandard equipment at that.
The
I want
Soviet
to
remember,
Union,
farmers
the
there's a
Soviet
lot
Union,
less
block by
people on this
welding it
planet
back
to
together.
feed.
the
There's
Soviet,
a lot less people on this planet to feed.
the Soviet
And
Union.
a good chunk of US agricultural output doesn't stay in the US. So even if the US's population is still 300 to 400 million, the global population is dramatically smaller than, what is it, 6-7 billion
Yeah.
right now?
But if you start
There's a
trying to
lot
mess
fewer mouths
with
trying
these
to eat.
international markets, it's potentially going to cause problems.
It's also the tractor market is significantly smaller at this point because most of the world's agriculture is still agrarian and done by horses. There's not the sheer fuck ton of mass in agriculture equipment, like
Norm-
mechanized agriculture, that there would be 20 years down the line.
Normally, I would agree with you on that, but there's
enough
one.
vehicle production in
Yeah.
the 30s and enough
But
tractor
that's-
production in the 30s.
Because
With a
you're
year's
already-
worth of spin up,
It's going to
or
take more
even
than
half
a
a
year
year's worth of spin up.
Because remember, this is also the world that's still coming out of the Great Depression.
Yes.
So
There's a
no,
lot
this
of
is going to
people
take
that want jobs and a lot of people that need money
It's
and a lot
not
of people
that quick
willing
and
to
simple.
accept money.
It's really not that quick and simple, unfortunately.
They have to
It's-
there's
it's
retooling
literally-
involved, but let's hang
This
on.
is not-
Let-
This is not just the US; it's the rest of the world.
It's-
They will also have to try and combine that.
It's
with
literally that simple. You can see it within about 2 or 3 years of what we're talking about. Have you seen how many car manufacturers there were in the UK at that stage? And the reality is, because they are not so complicated, they don't have all the electronics, they can spin the stuff up within a year. If there is the money to do it, which the Americans will be spending, they will do it. It is possible. Will it be the same as a modern tractor? No. Will there be some bits which they'll want to add in that, kind of going back, we would suggest would actually make things a lot better? Like, I don't know, a roll cage so people don't get squished by them? Yes. But fundamentally, it can happen. Because actually, you don't have the sophistication, but you do have a lot of potential for manufacturing. Because the rest
You
of the
don't as
world...
much as you think. Because yes, the equipment to make the tractors are much simpler, yes. So's their manufacturing process, so's the factories they're being built in that have a significantly lower throughput.
How fast did the devastated German Republic manage to spin up tank production?
How fast did Britain manage to spin up tank production and aircraft production?
Britain, very slowly.
Britain about
so,
6 years.
Right, correct me if I'm wrong, something like 1938, they make something like 19
Right,
Matildas
that's it. I'm putting my foot down.
Yep.
I'm pulling
across the
host.
entire country.
I'm putting my foot down. We've gone on this question far too long. I've let you all go on because you complained at me that I didn't let you ramble down into questions.
You're not getting my points yet.
But we need to move on. We are not going to get anywhere else, and I only have half an hour left to run.
And you still have things to be wrong about, Fleet.
And we can make him have to do multiple videos this week.
Just drop it.
Yeah.
Just drop it.
Unfortunately, it's one that will just never really go anywhere, I feel.
It's something that it would be nice to have like a full book written about it, but
Just drop
maybe
it.
later.
Next question, please.
YouTube Minecraft Watcher asks, what if the panel suddenly woke up tomorrow and found mysteriously their backyard shed had become an RBMK reactor ready for operations? I'm running. I'm
Oh,
running.
Fleet and I are in the same boat here.
Yeah, I'm climbing into my
running,
car.
and I'm calling a few phone numbers.
Yeah, same. I'm like, help.
So that I'm not held in any sort of legal issue.
Yes.
I'm very happy one of my friends is an anti-terrorism force protection officer for the government.
Yes.
I'm going to be very annoyed because that means my truck has turned into a notoriously brittle reactor. And then I'm going to be making a quick phone call to my foreman to say, do you have any NRC contact numbers? Because I really need somebody from the NRC here yesterday.
Moving on, you must embrace the nuclear pickup
What you
truck.
need is, you need...
I'm curious about the miniaturization technology they've used.
Right.
Unless
My shed,
unless
the shed we have in our back garden is it's like big enough for maybe a bike.
I mean, what if the garden shed is just the
So-
cap and the RMBK reactor is below ground? Like the shed is just the cap.
I was about to say.
Then you've got a problem.
in
Oh
my
god, no,
backyard-
Fleet, you idiot for that near me. Well done, you've just collapsed a massive area doing that, because what's next to me is basically a combination of old mines and waste sites. So by placing a nuclear reactor into that, you have just collapsed that entire network.
Whoops. Well,
That's fine. Don't worry about
Well, so are you joining us in running away then?
I won't have time to run away, it's already detonated probably immediately.
it. Poor dragon.
Is there anyone here for whom this reactor is not going to cause immediate death, like me and Dragon?
Me? I actually live on bedrock in a relatively high up on a hill.
Oh, no.
I mean, okay, it's a hill by East Anglia standards, so it's a small
Man.
It's a
base
mound in the
land.
ground.
Yes. I've driven around roundabouts in Leeds at a higher elevation than my hill. But it also does mean that
Oh no, someone's given Fox a nuclear reactor. This is not a good idea.
it's more the fact that
You just realised this?
is that someone's just killed my dad's dogs.
Oh.
Oh no.
Oof.
That ends badly.
Because he's got two huskies. And they sleep outside in a dog shed.
Yeah, because they're
That
huskies.
dog shed has just turned into a nuclear reactor.
I mean, we could put the reactor under the shed, so the dogs are still in the shed. There's just a reactor under the shed.
I mean, it makes it
Okay.
easier to find them at night when they're glowing, right?
Also makes slightly more sense for some reason, the reactor being underground.
Well, what about you, Dr. Clark? As far as I'm aware from what I saw when I was down there 2 years ago, you don't have a garden shed.
We do have a shed.
It's to the side.
Oh, I missed it.
Yes.
Congratulations. You have a reactor now? Your power problems are solved?
Yeah, I don't need to worry about solar panels anymore and batteries. And
On the other hand-
honestly,
You have to worry about the fact that your sister is in any sort of proximity to it.
yes, and her tendency to muck up computer systems and anything. Yes.
Literally,
yeah,
we just hear from like down south like a scream that says, "You didn't see graphite," but in Cornish. It's just.
It's more of a case of What have you been touching now? Leave it alone.
All
Well,
of these
I was
buttons.
just doing this,
Don't
this,
touch
and
them.
this.
But in a
Now
good
it's
news,
ticking, humming, and
Stop having bright ideas.
I just thought I could get my landlord into a hell of a lot of trouble. Because we don't like him, and we've just found a RBMK reactor under the house.
So, okay, so Dragon's
Pretty sure
dead.
that's
Okay, so Dragon's...
execution level of...
Okay, so to sum up what we know so far, Dragon is dead, Dr. Clark has free power as long as his sister doesn't cause Chernobyl in Cornwall, Cyclic, myself, and Caboose are climbing into our cars and running.
You have a
That
car?
just leaves... and that just leaves Dan and
He's
Ruin
allowed
on.
to drive, believe it or not. Despite his sense of direction, he's allowed to drive.
Oh, you can... I didn't get lost once.
You could get lost here. I've heard-
You've got to remember that Dan's a compass that always points towards the nearest redhead.
I drive halfway across this country every day to get to work.
Okay, she is being fast-tracked into ship because that was too funny and too comedically timed not to be.
Oh.
But anyway, so Dan and Ruin on. Where are your
Dan's
RM?
appearing ability to find
where-
a redhead, even in just Japan, proved very successful.
Yeah. Where are your RMBK reactors, and are there any particular problems?
Rune already mentioned theirs is their car, so
Well, no. So I have a garage, but my first truck is in that garage, as well as a not inconsiderable chunk of my tools. So I'm going to be very annoyed that both a very sentimental vehicle and the majority of, or the better part of my tools have now been turned into a Soviet era brittle reactor.
I mean the
And once I get over that, I'm going to be calling my foreman so that he can put me in touch with the NRC person on site so that I can get somebody from the Department of Energy out there to handle
It's going
it.
to be more than somebody. It's going to be a lot of somebodies that show up and an armed team as well.
Well, no,
Oh, you
at
get to see
first-
the cool
at
Department of
at
Energy
first
machine
it's-
gun.
At first, it's going to be one person from Camp Perry because they want to actually verify that I'm not completely cuckoo. Then once they verify that this is actually what it is, then it's going to be a lot of people from Fort Eustis.
Followed very quickly by a Department of Energy security team that you do not at all want to be in the same zip code as. They are the
Yes.
only people in the U.S. with effectively unlimited authority to kill whoever the fuck they want.
okay.
They also have
Like,
super cool custom submachine guns.
There's training for police officers of if you see this kind of thing on the road, do not pull them over. You will not survive.
Jesus, that is that's an
It's a nuclear response SWAT team.
Or security team.
They trump everything.
They don't have to ask questions,
fuck me.
even after they pull the trigger.
So the thing, Fleet, the thing to remember is that in the US you have a lot of very small entities with small police departments, and they are notorious for basically making their money to fund their little police department, who are grossly untrained as well, typically by
Generally,
European
yes.
standards or whatever.
Even in the US,
Yeah,
normal police.
with speeding fines.
Right.
So they will potentially try and stop almost anything. So they would try and stop a nuclear convoy going through.
And the other thing you have to remember is these guys don't just pull security on civilian nuclear stuff. They
my.
own the warheads.
Well, I guess
Department of Energy owns the nuclear warheads.
well,
It
I'm
also owns all the enrichment stuff, doesn't it?
you know what?
And
Essentially.
they are the ones who pull the security during transport.
Maybe I'm glad that I'm able to be in the UK and just run
Have you ever
away.
seen the UK nuclear support or nuclear transport?
Yes, I have. I'm still climbing into my car and I'm running.
Those policemen have the same rules,
Yeah.
and we are calling
they
them
do
police
everywhere.
because that's
Yeah.
what badge they wear.
Where I went from, where I
These
went
guys
to
do
college.
wear a federal law enforcement badge. There
Where I went-
was a point where they got into a shootout with the FBI and the EPA. By the way,
What? Anyway,
Yeah.
go on,
Yes,
Dragon.
and the FBI and the EPA didn't do well in it.
they didn't do well, and let's just say those two agencies had to eat crow over it.
Yeah. Anyway, Dragon, you were saying?
Where I went to college was along the route for the old nuclear waste disposal for the Hartlepool nuclear reactor.
Ah.
And yeah, we were basically told if anything happens to this stretch of track at all, run. Not because there'll be a disaster, more because of the sheer number of people who will be there doing inspections, who are some of the only people in the UK who will shoot first, ask questions later if they think you're being suspicious.
Man, it's almost
might
like
wanna go
governments
with
take
alligator
nuclear
opposite.
material loss very seriously or something.
Shocking.
Weird.
Yeah.
Right. Chandler Lord Chandel. The Count of Monte Cristo, the book I'm reading now, has arrived at... The Count of Monte Cristo has arrived at post-Second Empire France. He'll be an old man. He'll be an old man by that point. Intent on aiding the rebuilding the Marine Nationale, and he wants battleships. He's donating 25 million francs yearly for 20 years to this endeavor. You were in charge of filling this task. What do you do? We are eating good tonight, boys. We are eating very, very, very good tonight. I am off to surpass the Royal Navy, and nobody can stop me. There'll be no
The Royal
je ne
Navy
call
would like
tonight.
a word with you.
Well, in a nice way, you're France, right?
Yeah,
You're never going to surpass the Royal Navy
I
because in a nice way, the
know, I
Royal Navy
know.
will just bribe someone to come, threaten your land borders, and your budget will
I
be cut to
know.
nothing.
I know. I just had to get that little spiel out because I wanted to say it. But anyway, to bring everything back to realism for a little bit. Okay, so the first thing we can do is we can dramatically expand the numbers of capital ships we're building each year. So we can probably go from runs of 1 or 2 ships to 3 to 4 as a rule. Basically return to how things were prior to the Franco-Prussian War.
So the Royal Navy goes up to
ships.
about 6 to 8.
Yeah, no. But basically, what it means is I can it's enough of an increase that I can keep myself well clear of anyone else behind me. So the Russians, the Italians, a forming up German Empire, but I'm still not this overwhelming threat to, Britain. I'm just the bigger of the 2 power standard navies. Not the, oh dear God, they're going to try and topple our dominance of the seas. No, Britain, I just want what you have over everyone else. Thank you. Like, you get to do it to me, I get to do it to everyone else. Thank you very much. That's basically all I really have to do. There's nothing really wrong with French capital ship design in this period. At least not until Je ne Cole kicks off in the 1880s. So we'll have to come up with something to be built. Well, I suppose if we don't pause...
You know what?
If we don't
We do know the world's going to be safe because he's just going to build multiple Hoshes, and frankly, everyone's just going to die laughing.
Well... thing is, Hosh is laid down
Okay, is it Hoshes or is it Hoshapai?
Hoshi? What is the plural of Hosh?
Abominations, I think, is the simplest.
Because we already know what you call a group of them. A group of hosts is called a cancer.
Well, thing is, I would be leaning more
I
towards.
thought it was called a swarm, but okay.
Well, I'd be.
No.
Jen, can the French?
No.
Swarm is what you call a group of contract piliers. Because a
Ah.
swarm is dangerous.
Anyway, so I'd probably build. So
Ew,
the
actually,
first.
according to Google, it's a
Let
circus
him
of
finish this, Doc.
like clowns.
Complete.
So I'd probably the first change I would make is in the 1870s. So I would build six ships to a revised design of this. So basically, I'd take it up from 7,000 tons to 8,000 to 10,000 tons, and build basically a French Admiral class equivalent. So instead of having the 16.5-inch single barbettes, they'd have twin 13.4 hooded barbettes, and a relatively workable secondary battery as well. So instead of 4 3.9s, you probably have like 8 to 14 3.9s. Armor on these ships is fine for what they are, so that can probably be expanded to cover their enhanced size. And that gives me 6 modern barbette ships. Then spreading out from that, I won't build the Admiral Bourdin class. I'll instead... actually, then again, the Admiral Bourdins are something of a retrograde step that both the British and the French make. So I can't really justify not doing it if the British are building Victoria and her sister. So I probably will have to build something akin to Victoria and Sanspareil with their monstrous 16.25-inch guns. Probably, yeah. I probably will build the two Amiral Bourdin class, basically because that will shut people up about us having big ships. And honestly, you know what? They are an acceptable counter to the Victorias. They're not perfect, but they are an acceptable counter. Hosh, though, would be radically different. Radically different. She would be the first of a new model of French battleship. So she would have... she'd revert to the successful 2-twin 13.4 arrangement that we've already had. But she would actually have a proper... So she would actually retain her secondary battery she had historically, 18 5.4s, but arranged much better. And of course, with her more traditional armament of a twin forward and a twin aft, she would be much more capable. Also, you know, because we have bigger dockyards at this point, because, you know, we're building more and larger capital ships, ideally we can not do the whole tumble home out the wazoo nonsense, if that's at all possible. So Hosh would be an equivalent to something like Trafalgar class ironclads. Although perhaps not as squat as them. She might have slightly higher freeboard. Then after Hosh, you'd basically have the even higher freeboard Marceaus, which would be a flat-out Royal Sovereign equivalent. Although I'd probably only get 6 of them, and the Royal Navy would probably be building 10 rather than 8, because the Royal Navy would be reacting to me. The terrible class ironclads were actually very good ships. The problem was their main guns. Their hulls were
pretty terrible.
Their hulls were fine, their engines were fine, their other armament was fine. They were actually fairly good They were good sea boats in a calm, but basically anything above a calm, they were really, really bad. But their machinery was actually quite good, and they were pretty much all rebuilt into coast defense ships, and did serve during the Great War in that capacity.
I'm thinking if I were you, I would have tried for an 8-13.4 gun ship with 4 twins, 2 fore, 2 aft.
I don't know if I've got.
You can do it.
I don't know if I've.
You can do it. You've got the yard space.
She's capable.
In the 1890s, it seems like a little bit of an overreach.
Well, no, but if you do it, you've created an all-big gun battleship a little bit earlier, and suddenly you set the world on fire. And you've done it early enough that whilst you're not building as many as the British, suddenly they have to react to you. And you've just scared the bejesus out of the Germans and everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I do understand that, Mr. Clark, but isn't the whole point that you know, you've often told me the one thing I don't ever want to do is scare the British.
don't.
If you're building numbers, that would be one thing. But you're building tech, so you're basically challenging the Brits to a tech race. You're not building the numbers to scare them. You're building 3 to 4. They can easily outbuild them. You're building better tech.
I've
The
entered.
interesting thing, we see what they respond with.
I've entered the qualitative race.
You start. Yes, you've got France into the qualitative race.
Which Britain will most certainly answer, which could be scary and funny.
Yes, because you're starting the qualitative race off early enough that you've basically written Germany out of it, because you're going to make having navies expensive enough that Germany, without already an existing colonial empire and with the army already being budget hungry, will be basically going no.
Yeah. Whereas with our large French colonial empire, I have enough clout as Minister of the Navy to go, army, yes, I know the Germans are right there and they're scary, but without me, you don't get your vast amount of colonial reinforcements you say you need to actually wage that war.
And also, you could point to these bigger ships and go, and this is actually a cost saving because they carry the firepower of 2 ships, so we can deploy 2 of them, and that's the same as deploying a squadron of 4 to defend the some of the colonies. You can even call them your colony class.
Yeah, and I'll just quite say, ignore the fact I'm building them in the same numbers as the ones that came before. Shh, don't ignore. Just
Well,
don't.
How many colonies you got to defend?
Yeah, it's just ignore that bit. But yeah, so it's fairly obviously in terms of cruisers, French cruiser design, funnily enough, is not actually that bad. They look a bit weird, but they were fairly good ships, even if they did look a little bit strange. So they're honestly fine. I mean, I'm gonna make the Russians annoyed as heck, because they're gonna be like, okay, France, yeah, you know this whole 2-power standard, but you're kind of leaving us in the dust here, mate. Anyway,
And you'd care because
it's more. No, I don't. It's more just that would be what the Russians are saying. They would be annoyed.
yeah, but who cares about the Russians on naval matters?
Basically everyone does and did after they basically killed Sweden and the Ottoman Empire. In
Because both
short
those were
succession.
land.
No, they also trounced them navally. The Russian Navy was the 3rd and occasionally 2nd most preeminent fleet on the planet at various points throughout its existence.
I was about to say, which year are we talking about here?
They were actually quite
some
good
of
during
them
the
were,
Age of Sail. At certain points, they were really a powerful navy. And you have to remember, there's the point at which when the Ottomans need to be humbled over Greece, it's the Royal Navy and the Russian Navy which do most of the heavy lifting. The French turn up and go, hello, we're here. And everyone goes, oh, nice of you to arrive. Late as usual.
The Russian, like, remember, the way I say it is, the Russian Navy has had small periods of nadir, and the Russian Navy has had small periods of nadir that everyone focuses on. The aftermath of the fall of the Soviet Union, the aftermath of the rise of the Soviet Union, and the aftermath of the Crimea.
Humiliation of the Black Sea Fleet.
Yes.
I think you need to phrase that. They've had small periods of greatness and long periods of nadir.
I mean, they have long periods of average.
Right, because from what in the 1890s, they're pretty mediocre. They're not bad. They're just
meh.
They exist.
They're meh.
By the 1900s, they're in a bit of a sorry state. They've got a couple of good examples of 1 or 2 things. Looking at you, Aurora, you're not bad. But then you see about Tsushima, and it's a case of yeah.
Okay.
Kind of confirmed
right.
suspicions.
Okay.
You've got
I'm gonna stop you.
20s, 30s, and 40s and 50s.
I'm gonna stop
From
you.
a fundamental institutional rot.
I
When in the few cases there is the will for it, like say under Peter the Great and the Great Northern War, they can get themselves into a good situation. That is not the default.
The default is
I mean,
average.
just look at the Russian Navy after the death of Peter the Great.
I would say that the standard is not average; it's slightly below average.
I mean, the first Pacific Squadron, don't forget, was giving a very good account of itself against the Japanese until Admiral Makarov got his head. Yes, yes, it was Admiral Makarov.
Because they were basically trapped in port.
Admiral Makarov was doing a very good job of attempting to break out of port before he got his head blown off.
Trying to break out of port.
That
Or else-
tends to not be a good
Break out of
sign.
port.
No offense.
That's not anything to do with the Russian Navy. That's just shit that can
That is
happen in
true,
a
the Russian
battle.
Navy. It's their mine sweeping which hadn't happened, which caused him to blow up.
I thought he took a shell to the.
No,
No,
he died to a mine.
No.
It was a splinter caused by the detonation of a mine under the keel of his flagship,
Yeah.
Yes.
God damn
which
it,
caused a
Makarov.
part of his bridge to decapitate him.
God damn it, Admiral
Yes.
Makarov.
So, in the nicest way, the Russian First Pacific Squadron, they have moments of theoretical prowess, and they do some interesting maneuvers. But realistically, Makarov, for some reason, gets this really positive write-off of being a good admiral, and people go, "Yes, he's even better than Rozhetsky, etc." And I sit there and go, "No, Rozhetsky is probably the best admiral the Russians don't realize they have."
No, I will actually. I agree with that completely because.
Look at what he turned into, something that could at least
Yeah.
show up and fight.
Yeah.
Yes,
the fact, he
yeah,
managed the
not
fact that he
fair.
succeeded in the journey.
Yeah, like this is the thing. Makarov took a below-average fleet and turned it into something that was relatively effective. Rossosvensky took a walking disaster and turned it into a fleet that could have, that was actually
Had
scoring hits
potential.
on. Yeah, was scoring hits on Japanese battleships at Tsushima.
Right, no offense, but if we have to use can successfully score a hit on an enemy battleship as a sign of them being okay is.
No, that was more.
Considering I know what they were
I
like,
think it's
that
a
was-
sign of the improvement. That
it
they
is.
have.
It's just a case of.
To overstate the fact that Rozhetsky took them from a point of view in which if they'd fought the British after the Dogger Bank incident, Rozhetsky's own estimation was that they would have been annihilated without ever even being able to return fire. By the time he gets them to Tsushima, they can return fire and they hit things. That is a massive improvement when you consider he did it whilst also coaxing them around the frigating world.
Yeah,
And
It
they had a screen that could at least attempt to be a screen in their cruiser force. Like,
yeah.
It is, but unfortunately, they are still, the bare essentials of really
Yes, it is.
fighting at sea.
But it
I-
shows
yes, from a group that never should have even stepped on board a ship,
Yeah.
Yes, I'm agreeing it's a massive
let alone the
improvement.
pier.
Unfortunately,
But
it's still awful.
It's one of those things of that was Rossosvensky's success despite the odds, not the Russian Navy's success
Yes,
against
this
the
is the
odds.
That's
point.
what Clark and I are saying.
Yeah.
Because institutionally, the Russians do everything they can to fuck him over.
Yeah,
Yes.
if you ask me, the height of the Russian Navy is 1989.
I would agree.
Yes.
I would also argue that the only other time it attempts to come close to that peak is the aftermath of the Russo-Japanese War and the run-up to World War One. That you see the same drive for professionalism.
No.
No, you
and-
don't.
No. Look at what they do to Rozhetsky. And they try to they tried to get rid of his manuals and everything. They tried to write him out the history and turn Makarov into the hero of the war.
And because they can produce a few workable, keyword workable, examples of dreadnoughts,
Whoa, you did not just call the Ganguts workable. Those
I
things-
did because considering what
For
they
the
are and when
time-
they are,
Yeah, they're problematic design. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
they're
kind
built-
of like the Bratangs. Really good when they were designed,
I'm-
but pretty obsolete by the time they're looking at being finished.
Let's be
I
honest,
disagree.
the gangs were very good when the Dante Alighieri was designed.
so right, considering they are still starts build. So right, just to quickly point out, the first one is
they're
laid down in
really
1909,
solid
right?
First generation heavy dreadnoughts.
Mhm.
So
By the time
Gang-
Super Dreads come around, they're
So all
The
four are
problem is
laid down 1909. The first one is in service in 1915.
Mhm.
At that point, Britain's building the admirals
Yes.
effectively.
Yes, you're absolutely right. That is entirely correct.
So,
What chance?
yes,
is,
I'm going to call them
what
workable.
What chance is there that a Gangut's going to end up fighting an admiral?
Knowing the British, higher than they would like.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
okay,
They're
consider
operating
looking what the
India,
Germans.
very high.
The
And
Yeah,
consider
compare them to
what-
what the Germans are fielding.
Yeah,
Even
it's like,
right, okay,
or,
so
like-
what the Germans? Shall we go for what the Germans wanted to field? Because
that's Bayern, isn't it?
No, it's not even Bayern. It's the Bayern. Right, if we go for what they actually build, it is Bayern. What they are trying to build, you're dealing with stuff like the Erstats, what's it called, Yorks, and the L20s. Is what they had on paper for 1914, 1915 construction date.
Yep.
It's admittedly because they had a war and the Navy, all of a sudden, the Army going, can you stop taking all of the funding? We're cutting you off. They sort of go, oh.
To be fair, that had actually happened thanks to the Queen Elizabeth and then the R's. The Royal Navy had already run. The Royal Navy. Here's how the Royal Navy wins the quantitative race versus the Germans. They push up the cost and the numbers needed to such an extent that the German army turns around to the Kaiserlich Marine and goes, nope. You're starting to impede our budget. Shut up
Yeah.
and go away.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but I need to bring this up. What question are we answering?
Oh, we kind of got sidetracked again.
Let's move
Yeah,
on.
we
Please
should-
make
yeah, we
about
should.
your defense or something.
Because
Well,
I see.
Right. It was
fuck is
him
Crystal
developing the
in-
Fleet Red Dot
It
French
was
Navy.
fleet, yeah. Fleet
Yes.
developing the French Navy and what people's responses would be, and then
we-
fleet
and
saying
How
then
do we
then we
go
got
the Russian-
to
tangent.
Russia?
in particular be
It's
one of
called
the
ramblings for a reason.
In particular,
Right.
I can actually,
So-
because
It
I can actually
isn't
explain.
wonders in terms of us trying to correct fleet's knowledge.
It came there because of that fleet then compared them to a certain type of Russian ship, which then fleet started talking about how the Russian Navy occasionally had moments of lapse, but others of amazing quality, and then everyone sort of went, wrong way round.
Yeah, that's right about where I lost the plot and
Also-
just started
Because
corkscrewing in on
anyway.
stuff.
Anyway,
didn't you say, Fleet, you have to go now? Because 30 minutes ago
I
you said
should-
you need to go in 30 minutes.
I do, but look, I'll try and
Yeah,
cram in.
it's-
I'll try and cram in 2 more questions. Right.
No,
Right.
Garrett, go off. We'll
Night-
do
To be
Night-
fair, to be fair, the next one from Knight's actually pretty quick,
Yeah.
theoretically.
Knight 6831. Of the countries that had dreadnought battleships, which ones perhaps should not have operated dreadnought battleships? Out of
None of them.
out of all the nations that acquired them,
Spain?
I'm struggling. No, Spain needed battleships as a backstop for its cruisers.
Spain, no.
No.
It has nothing. They had no business trying to be that level of a naval power at that point.
No.
I,
Oh, they,
Let's be honest, they really weren't. The Hispania class are just not.
they were a stepping
No.
stone towards
Yeah, I-
something greater
will say
than
is that
unfortunately the First World War.
Regia
curtailed.
Eugenia, is that sorry? The next ones after
Yeah.
that were actually a decent one. Basically, scaled
Yeah.
down QE with 13.5-inch guns. It's not bad. Then they also had another one which was meant to basically just be Spanish QE. Like, they had good ambitions,
Like
It's
Spain
just I don't think those ambitions were at all justified,
which I think that's
Spain
not
had-
unreasonable.
given their economic resources.
Yeah.
Spain has-
money,
Yeah,
that money should have been put elsewhere, and I don't even mean into the military.
Like Spain hadn't quite realized that the Spanish centuries ended 200 years ago.
Spain has. Sorry, go ahead.
And they were still trying to act like there was some degree a major or even high secondary power
Still
when
think
they just weren't.
if they'd had training for their crews and decent shells, they would have thrashed the Americans. As they
Spain.
No, they wouldn't have. In the nicest way,
Huh?
if they'd had those things, then in simple terms, they might have won some battles, but the Americans would have dug in and won the war.
The Spanish army was better than the American army. They were.
You're missing the point, Fleet. It would have turned into a longer war where industrial production would have mattered.
Yes.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the Americans have more people to chuck at it than the Spanish, and more money.
And
Yeah,
there's
and
one more thing
Ameri-
you're forgetting. It's not often talked about in the land war side of things, Fleet, but no, the Spanish army wasn't better.
No.
because they didn't bring as good of artillery.
Hmm.
Also, a lot of the senior officers they brought with them, whilst their junior and medium middle ranking officers were usually fairly good, a lot of the army senior officers, while some were good, there were a lot who were there because of their pedigree.
So,
Do not
if I
take
may,
the Rough Riders' experience to be the regulars' experience.
if I may,
Go ahead.
Yes.
assuming we're using the term dreadnought to mean all types of steel constructed, full armored battleship.
Big gun.
Yeah, big gun battleship. Spain, to my mind, has a solid case for having a small core of competent coast defense battleships or dreadnoughts. It should not be building anything that's attempting to match in for an R class or bigger.
Oh, this isn't even that. Well, Spanish not even that. Honestly, I think you could have an interesting scenario where the 3 Regina Victoria, Regina classes actually started construction and were a decent way in. What their fate might have been once war broke out if they were far enough along.
I mean, they
Honest-
have no hope. Even by the pre-dreadnought era, they have no hope of competing with, or even defending their coasts against.
Oh, I'm not referring to that.
Like
I'm
the
referring
Italians or whatnot. Like they're just gone.
I think it could be interesting to basically see if they were far enough along, would Britain basically compulsory purchase them and go, yep, sorry, these are 3,
yes.
4 13.5-inch gun ships.
The
That
issue,
reasonably modern, we'll nab them.
and
Yeah.
fleet, the lack of money comes from the fact that Spain is an industrialized economy.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I'm aware that Spain is. I
the
actually.
money they put into that navy, kind of like, honestly, I'm gonna kick this over to modern for a sense. I hold the same opinion of the Spanish Armada today, but I'll leave it there since the question doesn't talk about modern. That money should be put into other parts of the Spanish government's budget because they have fundamental foundation level issues that need to be addressed.
Because, in fact, half of Granada's population, the southernmost province of Spain, are still living in caves.
Because honestly,
Unironically.
I would have thrown in a thing for that Brazil should not have had their dreadnoughts, but by the fact that they
has a
got,
better case.
but by the fact that Brazil got their dreadnoughts and the others responded with dreadnoughts means they are justified in having dreadnoughts.
Yes.
I was going to say that as a unit, the South American countries, as a unit, but as Dragon just pointed out, once one nation gets theirs,
in that period, they also had an economy that could support a moderate-sized fleet. Spain did not.
Which then kind of immediately crashed afterwards.
Well, it
And-
crashed once the guano market crashed, but
Don't forget the coffee crash, which killed Brazil.
You have to remember one of the reasons why a lot of the former Spanish colonies, especially the big ones in South America, want dreadnoughts. One of the reasons they had them is because they're worried the Spanish might try and come back because they look at the Spanish economy and Spain still at this point has claims of ideas of being a great imperial power.
I mean, let's not forget the Spanish try numerous times during the 19th century to do exactly that.
Yes.
they're also not the only
I
European
would-
power that tries it in Latin America either.
I would posit
It's a constant fun of Britain to stop them doing it because it gets in way of British economic interests.
Like, look at Mexico and the French. as
Yes.
Well.
Ah, yes, the Mexican Empire. Probably the only imperial state I would say probably should never exist. It was wholly artificial. Can't believe I'm saying that. Dear God, what am I coming to?
Seriously, you're really making some, I'm going to say, hot takes in terms of politics this evening.
I literally just said that the Mexican Empire shouldn't exist, which is the common opinion
a-
of the masses.
Still a bit of a hot take, but
What do you say
Me, a
afterwards, though?
populist? Who are you?
I know,
No,
exactly.
honestly, I think some of the nations which don't buy dreadnought battleships might actually have more justification in getting them than Spain did.
I mean, I'd argue
Yeah.
I'd argue
Probably.
that the Portuguese don't need one, even though they tried to buy one.
Honestly,
need
I'm
one
more
Spain has
I'm more
done.
looking at
That's
Sweden
their
and
main reason
potentially
for it.
Greece.
Yeah, the Greeks. Yeah, I think. Well, the
Greeks
problem,
want to conceal the Ottomans.
yeah, the Greeks need
Yeah,
it because
that's why I say
Ottomans-
it makes sense for them to try and do something. They did try a couple of times, just didn't go anywhere.
They
and
went
then
well beyond their means.
and Sweden, well, honestly, maybe it's better Sweden didn't get them.
Yeah, if the Imperial Russian and Imperial German, or heck, one of those two, had remained going concerns, it's likely you would have seen something follow the Spherias. But
No,
what
I'm more
that
worried about the
something-
designs they have before them and such. And honestly, what Sweden would do with dreadnought battleships.
Ironically, the same
They're
thing.
scary enough without.
The same thing they did. Well, the Belgian Empire didn't exist. It didn't. Because for most of the Congo's existence, it was a free state, and then you've got the. Well, no, let me finish before you all jump down my throat, and I will explain what I mean.
Foxo was just sneezing.
Yeah.
In fact, you realise
It's
sorry,
me
I'm
who's
sorry.
snickering.
I'm sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit.
The Congo was basically run.
he's not getting to sleep on time of the night, is he?
The Congo was run by the Belgians, and yes, it was part of a Belgian empire, but that's not really an imperial state,
Well,
more
that's
of an empire
disputed
in
by
the
the
sense of.
Belgian government, who claim it was entirely the fault of the Belgian king.
No, I'm sorry. I'm gonna look. I'm pressing X to down on that one, and
the Belgian claimed it was entirely the Belgian government.
and again, I'm pressing X to down on that one. Like, both of you need to accept that it was both of your faults, and you're both evil bastards.
What's the phrase?
Are you talking about
Free in the Congo Free State means free of oversight.
Yes, exactly.
We all know that whatever happened in the Belgian Congo, mercifully,
Yes, we don't. The Congo was just a fucking mess, in the worst way possible. The other if you've got the other European powers going, okay, maybe you should fucking chill.
If you manage to make Britain feel guilty about Empire and France and Germany and
Yeah.
Italy
Yeah, if
and
you
even Spain, question you?
Yeah,
You have
let's
gone.
not get started on what Italy did in North Africa.
Yeah, and let's be honest. If you're making all of them look over you and go, "You're just doing this wrong, mate. You're doing this bad," you've reached the level. It's like when people tell me the British Empire was the worst empire of all time, I go, I don't want to defend the British Empire, but I have to correct you there. There is the one empire which actually made all the other empires feel bad about empire because it was so bad.
Squirm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna lie, like a lot of the colonial empires did do
Terrible things.
Yeah, did terrible things, and there were oceans of blood created. But tiny little Belgium went above and beyond in the oceans of blood creating department.
And when those empires which did that are looking at you and going, "You're doing something wrong here. You're being evil," you have to ask questions.
Yeah, the Belgian Congo was yeah. Anyway, and so on this not a bombshell of the Belgian Congo was a horrible place, and the Belgians should feel bad that this happened.
I will remind the court that this was a
contender for Belgian leadership is arguing for Belgium to be no longer a country.
What?
I will remind the court that this is a question that started out as, of the countries that had dreadnought battleships, which ones perhaps should not have operated dreadnought battleships? And we've now gone to Belgian colonialism.
Again,
Well, actually,
Anyway, right, Fleet, don't you need to get going?
yes, I do
No,
need
no,
to
no,
get
I
going.
will
Ben was
tell
just when you
one
want to finish.
country that operated them that really fucking shouldn't have.
Okay.
That was the Ottoman Empire.
I disagree.
They really didn't
The
have
Ottoman
a choice,
Empire.
even though they shouldn't have been spending that money on that.
Yeah.
Russia was getting them.
Yeah, it was incredibly in debt.
Yes,
it had
but
an
Russia was getting them.
infrastructure debt that was about
You had the
600
Russians and
years
then you had
old.
the Italians as well.
Yeah,
Um,
they didn't have much of an industry. They were still fully agrarian economy, and the Arab world was being the Arab world.
The Ottoman Empire's in this
At
horrible
what point in
place,
that calculus do you buy dreadnoughts?
basically
they
because
don't have a
not
choice.
try to
They
build
need to
rail.
hold so they need to hold on to some of their provinces that are on the other side of the Mediterranean from them, in order to attempt to hold together the rest of the empire. They ran into serious problems when they lost Libya in the Italo-Ottoman War. And in order to do that with the Italian Navy, you need dreadnoughts. Like otherwise, the House of Cards starts coming down and the Ottoman Empire dies. They didn't have a choice.
Yeah, this is the thing. The
But
Ottomans.
it already was, so that's the thing.
It was.
They lost
And
that, but they were still hanging on to other stuff that was being eyed.
Like, the question shouldn't have been, we get dreadnoughts to try to prevent the decay. It's save as much from the decay as possible.
That was the whole thing. That was the whole
Shit's
thing.
That was
fucked
that
no
was the
matter
whole
what they
thing.
do.
Like that was the whole thing. They needed to hold on to parts of their empire that were far flung, and they were in an era where there is a new naval, well, not quite new at this point, but a major naval power in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
That is trying to gobble them up at the ends of their empire.
Yeah. Also, Foxo, they tried the
And
cheap
some
option.
stuff right off their doorstep.
Yeah, Foxo, they tried the cheap option in the 1900s when they bought those two old German pre-dreadnoughts. They found that didn't even work against the bloody Greeks.
And I'll point out the Italians were also perfectly willing to sail naval vessels right up into the Dardanelles and execute attacks. So they needed to be able to defend Constantinople as well.
It's like, but the
the
conflicts that
approaches.
have and did fuck over the Ottomans was the Balkan Wars, which were massive land campaigns,
Yep.
where the lack of infrastructure fucked them over.
Yeah, and what led to them? What destabilized the Balkans in the Ottomans' eyes?
Serbian nationalism.
No.
No,
Like,
it was the loss of Libya, them being shown to be weak.
Yep. The loss of Libya was the catalyst.
That was the Ottoman view of it.
Yeah, but it's
And
a
to be
view
honest,
that
that
was
was the Austrian
wrong.
view of it too.
Yeah, it was also wrong view because the Serbian nationalism had
matter.
been happening for the previous century.
So
it,
you're
it doesn't matter
so
whether
you
it
are
was the
missing.
wrong view or not.
Yeah, they had
That
to
was
have
the
them.
world view.
They had to have them because their opponents had them. Whether they could afford them or not is not the point. They needed them because somebody else was going to turn up with them and squash them and do serious harm to them. This is exactly the same reason the Spanish did not need them, because the Spanish did not have anyone around who was looking at their key possessions and going, I want to gobble them up, where they needed that.
And also,
No,
it's
no,
important.
No.
And
But
if
to be
that
fair-
logic,
one did, the Italians, they weren't going to be able anyways to
To be fair-
manage any sort of defense with what they could get.
Yeah, it's also
Yeah,
important to bear in mind that the Ottomans tried for the longest time to avoid this. They did. The Ottomans, for a significant period, tried to slow walk their naval rebuilding so as not to overstress their economy again. But the Balkan Wars basically put paid to that notion. In the aftermath of the Italo-Turkish War, they bought the two pre-dreadnoughts, thinking that will be enough to navally deter Greece with the trio of modern cruisers that we've built. The trio of cruisers that we've built that actually did have a relatively fun career doing commerce raiding in the Balkan Wars against Greek shipping. In fact, they're part of the reason why Avarov is bought, because they do have some fun against Greek merchant shipping in the Aegean. But as the Balkan Wars prove, you can't half-ass this. You have to have the big toys.
To be
Yeah,
fair,
Although
but-
in favour of Musk using his money to buy a 12 aircraft carrier for the United States Navy, considering, I'm just calling it Elon Musk.
Not right now. Not right now. Not right now. Not right now.
Could make it
Yes.
Tesla powered.
No.
No, just not
No.
right now.
Not right now. And if you want to know why, we can talk about it afterwards.
But if anything, the amusing bit about the Ottomans and Dreadnoughts is they don't even get the ones they want. The two they buy, try and buy from Britain, and then the one they buy off Brazil that's also in Britain, they never get any of them.
No.
No.
They
It's the
They-
only Dreadnought
they-
battleship they
they-
technically get is the
funny-
Goban.
the funny thing is the weird thing is with the two 13.5-inch armed ships that they buy, because the thing is they buy two, then they cancel one, then they decide they do want a second dreadnought, so they get the money for a second dreadnought through Parliament. Then the subscriptions come in to buy a Rio de Janeiro, so they reorder the second 13.5-inch ship they've scrapped in addition to Rio de Janeiro, so now they're getting three.
And they never get any of them.
Yeah.
Nope.
Welcome to World War One.
Woo! Anyway, after that little diatribe on
that's
the,
It's what I
I think that is the universe saying you don't deserve dreadnoughts at that point.
it is a
Yeah,
shame. I
and
would have
it's-
loved to have
it's
seen
like
them in
on
Ottoman
an
service.
economical
I
structural
wouldn't. It
level.
wouldn't have lasted very well for very long.
Now, I don't often quote.
Ottomans were in a similar position to the Chinese.
We are now 15 minutes past when Fleet
Yeah,
said he
I
had.
know.
to
I know, I do. But look,
Just leave
I
the
just-
stage open.
No, okay, I will, I
That
will,
he's
I will
leaving-
leave the stage. Would you let me? Okay, thank you everyone for coming. I hope
No.
you all enjoyed. And just
Just
one
close the
last thing,
recording and
one
stream.
last thing on this whole Ottoman thing. I don't often quote Last Southerner, but I will at this point because it is a good quote. The competence of an Ottoman naval surface asset is inversely proportional to its size. And on that quote, I'm going to leave you all. Take care.
Are you
I'm-
closing